There's a quote from Alex Hormozi that I think about all the time. He said, "Every person's life has a chapter called the loneliness chapter." It's the part where you've already outgrown the people you used to hang around, but you haven't quite reached the people you're trying to become. You're stuck in the middle. And that middle? It's the loneliest place you'll ever stand. Most people panic in that gap. They can't handle the silence, so they crawl back to where it's comfortable, back to the old friend group, the old habits, the old version of themselves. But there's a small percentage of people who do something different. They fill that empty space with a single idea. I'm becoming someone better, and the right people will catch up eventually. Hormozi said this on Chris Williamson's podcast, answering a question about loneliness. And weirdly enough, I remember the exact moment I heard it. It was 2 years ago. I was interning at a company downtown, basically running their content for them, and since I love walking, I decided to walk home instead of taking a ride. A route that took about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. It was early evening, and I was speed walking like I had somewhere urgent to be. Then that quote hit my headphones, and I stopped dead in the middle of the sidewalk. I remember it so clearly because right as I stopped, a couple walked past me. The woman was laughing at something, mid-story, completely lost in her own little world with her partner. And when I froze like that, she gave me this look, half startled, half concerned, like, why did this guy who was practically jogging just stop like he saw a ghost? Here's why I stopped. I was living that exact chapter. It was early in college, early in my personal growth, early in becoming who I actually wanted to be. And honestly, it might have been the loneliest stretch of my life. Something had clicked one night that pushed me onto a completely different path, and that shift happened almost overnight. Almost overnight, I didn't fit with the people I used to spend all my time with. It felt like they couldn't understand me anymore. I watched people I used to call my closest friends slowly fade out of my life. And it wasn't just the old friends. I had a group at college too, but even there, I felt like an outsider. Which is strange, because I'm a social person. I like people, I like talking, I like laughing, so on paper my life looked full. But underneath all that noise, I still felt completely alone. I don't know if that makes sense, but I was the guy standing in a crowded room who nobody actually got. So when that clip from the podcast played, it described my exact situation so precisely that I physically couldn't keep walking and just let it pass over me. I had to stop. We've never met, but if I had to guess, as a friend from a distance, I'd bet you're either in this exact chapter right now, or you can feel it coming. And there are 2 things you need to know about it. Thing 1, everyone goes through this. Every single person who's ever decided to make a real change in their life or in the lives of people around them goes through this exact chapter. Chris Williamson has recorded something like 1,000 conversations with the best people in their fields. Jordan Peterson, David Goggins, Patrick Bet-David, you name it. And what he said was that, based on everything he's heard, this chapter shows up in literally all of their stories. Take Patrick Bet-David, genuinely one of the most respected people I know of. He's talked about coming to the US from a refugee camp in Germany, spending years deep in a party lifestyle, and then finally deciding to flip his entire life around. When he made that decision, everyone around him mocked him. His own father told him to drop it. Nobody in our family has ever made it that big. Why are you dreaming so big? His friends told him his dad had no money, that he was just some naive immigrant kid who actually thought he could make it. Now? He's one of the most respected names in media, runs one of the biggest insurance companies in the country, and his net worth is somewhere in the hundreds of millions. And honestly, based on his brand and reach, I'd guess his actual value is closer to $1 billion. Or take MrBeast, the biggest YouTuber on the planet. He's talked about being in high school, wanting to talk about nothing but YouTube, and nobody around him getting it. He was the weird kid. Now obviously everybody wants to be in his circle, everybody wants his attention, but back in that lonely chapter, nobody wanted anything to do with him. There are 1,000 more examples like this. And hearing Williamson say that literally everyone goes through this, that genuinely gave me strength. Just knowing I wasn't alone in it made everything feel lighter. Thing 2. How you handle this chapter matters more than almost anything else. Because everyone goes through it, but most people go through it the wrong way. So like every video in this series, let's drop the whole YouTuber talking at a camera thing and just be real for a second. Picture your best friend sitting across from you in a coffee shop, and we're just talking through something important. Based on my own experience, there are 3 things you can do to make sure this chapter goes as well as it possibly can. And I promise you, if you actually do these, years from now you'll look back and smile, and you'll call this one of the best stretches of your life. 1. Use this time to actually get to know yourself. Here's the wild part. Most of us don't actually know ourselves. We don't have the self-awareness we think we do. I'd like to believe I understand myself pretty well, but if you ask me straight up if I know myself completely, the honest answer is no. I've put in real time with the person I spend the most time with, myself, but I still feel far from finished. There's so much more time and energy I need to invest before that understanding feels anywhere close to complete. Honestly, one of my personal goals is to have a genuinely solid understanding of who I am before I turn 30. A complete understanding is probably impossible. We're shaped by everything that happens to us, and every day we're basically becoming a slightly updated version of ourselves. But even attempting it feels like giving myself a shot at the most honest version of life possible. Living in a way where, on my deathbed, I'm not sitting there riddled with regret. So if you're in this chapter right now, this is the best possible window to figure out who you are. What are your real goals? Not the ones you inherited, the ones that are actually yours. Why are you even here? How do you want to be remembered? What would make this life feel meaningful to you? What actually motivates you? And which parts of your identity are real versus which parts are just a story you've repeated to yourself so many times that it started feeling true? These are the questions you take with you on long walks, maybe with headphones in, something quiet playing in the background, no destination, just hours of thinking through this stuff, question by question, trying to actually land on an answer. And I promise you, once you start questioning things you've never questioned before, you realize how little you actually knew about yourself, and how empty the path ahead of you might have been without that self-knowledge. I genuinely did this. I started asking myself, okay, I want to be a millionaire. Fine. Why? So I can buy that car, that watch, a Rolex. Then I asked again, do you actually want that stuff for what it is? Do you want a Rolex because it's a great watch? Or because you want people to see it on your wrist and be impressed? Do you want the approval? And when I sat with that, I realized, yeah, if that watch wasn't a Rolex, I probably wouldn't even like it that much. It was never really about the watch. It was about validation. Then I asked why other people's approval mattered so much to me in the first place. See what just happened? I cracked open a goal that lives in almost everyone's head, and suddenly there's this spark. You start realizing that the things you've been chasing might not even be things you actually wanted. You have to get comfortable questioning everything like this, over and over. When I did that, I realized how many of my goals were hollow underneath. A huge chunk of my mental bandwidth was just wrapped up in figuring out how to get other people's approval. Think about how pointless a life strategy that is, building your entire existence around other people's applause. I started questioning my identity too. I used to believe things like, I'm not a disciplined person, I'm not someone who can do big things, I'm just not smart enough. And I started asking, okay, where's the evidence for that? Is this actually true? Or did it come from other people around you, from things that happened to you? Do you have real proof? Or have you just been living inside a lie for years because you decided that's who you are? There's so much you don't know about yourself yet. How you get motivated, what actually makes you feel good, what perspective helps you bounce back after failure. So much you haven't explored. And honestly, there's one thing that makes all of this urgent. I'm glad we're having this conversation right now, and I can walk you through this. But it also makes me sad, knowing how many people never reach this kind of awareness. And here's the thing. Our time here is limited. You already know that, obviously. We all know we're going to die someday. but knowing it and actually feeling it are two different things. Look, you and I are both going to die one day. This life we have isn't infinite. It ends. And imagine taking that risk, going through life like 90% of people do, without ever really knowing yourself, just existing instead of living, never chasing what actually matters and ending up exactly where that path leads. Honestly, that's the scariest thing I can imagine. Sitting at 90 years old on my deathbed with this feeling that I didn't really live, that my life felt empty. That's terrifying. Because in that moment, it's over. There's nothing left to do about it. I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of getting close to death and realizing I didn't live well, that I wasted time on things that didn't matter, that I cared about the wrong things, that there was a better version of me out there and I was never brave enough to go after it. Never knew myself well enough to actually become that person. Nothing scares me more than that. So make yourself a promise. The same way you've spent the last 15, 20, 25, 30 years getting to know other people, spend this time getting to know yourself. Really sit down with the one person you're going to be with for your entire life and grow alongside them in the quiet. Pour everything you've got into becoming the best version of that person. Do that, and I promise you, 5 years from now, you'll look up and realize you've become someone you used to only dream about being. So ask yourself hard questions during this chapter. Get to know yourself. Grow alongside yourself. 2. Lean into parasocial relationships during this stretch. A parasocial relationship is basically what you and I have right now. I'm not actually in the room with you, but you're watching this, and it feels like a real exchange, because in a lot of ways, it is one. One of the best things the internet gives us is the ability to build these one-directional relationships with people who can genuinely help us grow. I leaned on this heavily during my own lonely chapter. The people around me weren't people who understood what I was going through. So I found that understanding somewhere else, through podcasts, through creators I wanted to be in the orbit of, through videos exactly like this one, even through books. That's what kept me from feeling completely alone during the loneliest chapter of my life. But there's a real danger here too. It's incredibly easy to use this chapter as an excuse to cut yourself off from the world entirely, to become the person who never leaves their room and has zero real connection with anyone. I've lived in that mode, and honestly, it's not a good strategy. Humans are wired for connection. Isolating yourself completely is never the answer, no matter what field of psychology you look into. So here's the move. Use this chapter to lean into parasocial relationships, but also go find the real people in your life. For me, that was obviously my family, specifically my brother. I used this chapter to make my relationship with him roughly 10 times stronger. Before, sure, we got along fine, but it was very much he's my brother, we share parents, that's the extent of it. Now, he's someone I would genuinely give up anything for. Every plan I make for my future has him in it somewhere. Knowing how I am with friends, you can probably imagine how much time and energy I'm willing to pour into my own brother. I invested real time into that relationship and leveled it up massively, and honestly, it's one of the best investments I've ever made. Forget about you should have bought Bitcoin in 2010. The time I spent building that relationship was the best return I've ever gotten on anything, because the payoff on personal growth like that is basically infinite. 3. Push yourself out of your comfort zone with small, low-stakes challenges. I used to set little challenges for myself, like talk to one stranger every single day. So if you're grabbing coffee, actually talk to the barista. Ask them what their favorite drink is, what the difference is between two types of coffee, whether there's some drink they know how to make that isn't even on the menu. Nothing deep, just a small, genuine conversation. Or if you're out on a walk and you see a couple who clearly look happy together, say something. Tell them they make a great couple. So many people get weirdly nervous about stuff this simple, but trust me, you'll make their day, and that positive energy comes right back to you. And doing little things like this means you get every upside of this lonely chapter without any of the actual risk of becoming isolated. It's basically a formula for getting the best possible outcome out of this stretch of your life. That's the real conversation I'd have with my best friend if he told me he was in this exact chapter. And I promise you, this is a chapter everyone goes through, and if you handle it right, 5 years from now, you'll look back on it with a smile.